Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Alpha Life here. We are finally going to compare all the empires and all the information that we have been getting from this Alpha Life series. And well, of course, I must imagine most of you are interested in which empire made us the most money. And we are going to touch into that, but we are also going to take a good look at the activities and the reasons why we made more money or less money with certain empires, and which style or which empire would be better suited for any other style of play. Because, well, we mainly did PvE, whether it was low-sec belt fighting or combat exploration or abyssals, and some empires are better suited for other things differently to what we may believe or the activities that we've been doing because they allow you to actually evolve further into these activities. So we are going to start up with the amount of ISK that we have been getting, and I took a very quick look at the sale videos that we made for the end of each empire, and I can see right here that in the Galente Alpha Life we made 138 million ISK in sales, somewhat around that, and we were able to amass around 120 or two, no, sorry, 290 million ISK worth of loot. Of course, we didn't sell it all. I like keeping some things, as you might also do. So, what else did we actually get? Well, we then move on to the Minmatar, where we got 248 million in sales. This is considering that we also sold some other stuff, and consider that in the Galente we didn't sell the NPC loot. That means the loot that is guaranteed, for example, from the Abyssals, from the Abyssal runs and stuff like that, or the, for example, District Levian surveys, and some of these other overseer's personal effects. As you can see, I am absolutely amassing them. So that might be one reason why we made a little bit less ISK in the Galente than in the Minmatar, because in the Minmatar I really did want to sell pretty much everything that we had. And then we move on to the Minmatar. In the Minmatar side of things, in the Minmatar Alpha Life series, we actually made 248 million in sales, and were able to amass 558 million in loot. And consider that most of these series I recorded in about the length of a month, but some of the activities I was unable to record or didn't go exactly as planned, so I did not include them in the series. Next up, we move on to the Amar side of the series, where we made 230 million in sales and 242 million in loot. And finally, we are finishing up with the Kaldari, the least amount of money or the least amount of ISK that we made. It was 46 million in sales and 77 million in loot. Now, take under consideration that this is not the most accurate representation, because the activities that I mainly run make more sense in other spaces of, well, space of Eve than others, and some activities or some empires are better suited for other activities and will make a lot more money from those other activities. So let's move on to the actual activities that I consider to be really good, starting up with production and mining. And the reason why I think it's actually really worth it to go with Galente, even if you have to move all the way to Jira to get the best buy prices, there's a really good reason, and that is these haulers right here, mainly the miasmos. Why that is? Well, because in the miasmos you get a very good mining hold capacity. So what does that actually mean? Let's see, I actually believe I have my miasmos. Well, let's use these miasmos as a perfect example. And as you will be able to see, it has a very big mining hold. Of course, 46,000 cubic meters is really great for miners, and you can just mine a lot, and eventually take your miasmos to the markets to sell. Of course, I do recommend very much caution, especially if you're compressing your ores, because you will have a lot of value on your miasmos, and I do recommend that you prepare it properly for those sales in case someone wants to gank you on the way to the market, especially going to Jira. You know it's a very dangerous road. So let's move on to the next activity. In exploration, I would actually go for Kaldari ships, for the Kaldari Empire, mainly because of this little ship here. As you can see, the Heron is actually a very, very nice exploration ship, and mainly the good thing is that it has these 5 mid slots. That is actually going to be really great because you can have the micro warp drive, the relic analyzer, the data analyzer, and 2 other things to help you either get faster scan times or to be able to scan better either relic or data sites. It can actually be really, really good. And well, the 3 high slots are not really important at all. These 5 slots are what really make it for us. So, for exploration, wormholes, nullsec, lowsec, relic, and data hacking sites are actually what I believe that this Heron is best, other than all the other Tech 1 Empire explorers. So, let's move on to the next one, which would be PvE exploration. What would I consider to be the best empire if you want to get into PvE exploration, maybe get some escalations, hideaways, refuges, and stuff like that? Well, I would mainly recommend 2, Galente and Minmatar, oddly enough. Why Galente? Because, well, the sites aren't that complicated, not as many missile launchers as with the other empires, and, well, while the loot drops that we had been getting during the series was not, well, they were not the best, you can still get some really, really good ISK through them, and I believe it's a percentages game, so maybe it's because I have been running way too many combat sites in this particular character, and that's why we didn't get very good loot. But the good thing about the Galente Empire is that you can actually start a pretty good straight path. You start up with the Tristan, because you can actually fit, let's simulate the ship real quick, you can actually fit your 2 guns and your drones and still the probe launcher, the core probe launcher, which is going to be really, really nice. I actually believe that I have a fit just for combat exploration. Let's see, what is this? No, I don't want that. I want that. The Exploring Tristan. So we actually took a good look at this fit during the series, and this I would really, really recommend. It can even run Serpentis 3 out of 10, although it does take a little bit of time because it doesn't have such high DPS, but it's really, really great. Being able to fly that full flight of light drones can really help you a lot, and you just keep the range and keep on moving. Next, you're gonna want to move on to an Algos. The Algos is going to be, especially if you're keeping in Galante space or maybe even going to Kaldari space, this is going to be an absolute beast of a ship for PvE combat exploration. Not only because it can fit full 5 prototype Gauss guns, railguns, sorry I froze for a second, and it can also have the core probe launcher, and it can also have the drones, and it can fly 2 medium drones with 3 light drones, which is really, really good for the DPS, and I really recommend it. However, do not try to run the 4 out of 10s from Kaldari space with this. I wouldn't recommend that one. If you can, scan down some sites, then I would recommend it. Maybe run 2 out of 10s, 2 out of 10s I think are the lowest you can run. And if you can scan down a 3 out of 10 in Kaldari space, which will be really, really difficult because of the competition, I would also really recommend it. So for PvE, I think absolutely the best are the Galente, and then you can move on to the amazing Vexor. I think this is the best PvE combat exploration ship, and well, with good reason, because of course you can fit 3 medium railguns and the core probe launcher. Of course you lose 1 spot, but the drone hold is really good, and it can fly a full flight of medium drones, which is really going to help you get that DPS high up and keep your range far, far away, which is really, really appreciated. I really love this ship, and I really love this speed. So do try it, and eventually you can actually move on to something a little bit more expensive. Well, I think quite a lot more expensive. Yeah, 143 million. And well, it's got a bigger drone bay, but it can fly 4 heavy drones, which is really, really nice for those harder sites. You can actually run the 4 out of 10s with the normal Vexor, but with the Vexor Navy issue, you will have a lot less trouble running them. And yeah, that's why I believe that the Caliente Empire is the best for PvE high-sec combat exploration, absolutely and without a doubt. And the good thing about the Vexor is that you can actually bring it to to low-sec to run some of those escalations, and you, especially the 3 of 10s, maybe even the 4 of 10s, and you won't have that much of an issue because it's not as expensive, not so much people will hunt it down. They will have to be really bored, and if you are really, really careful with your discount, you can absolutely have no problem. Next up, we're going to want to move on to missions. Now, mission running as an alpha doesn't make that much sense because you cannot make that much ISK. However, it's an activity that I really enjoy, especially if you like, decompressing after a long day of work, or you're just sick of getting blown up in low sec or in null sec, or there are just too many people wherever you usually go. And for that, I would absolutely recommend the Ammar Empire. Why the Ammar Empire? Well, mainly because you're going to start off either with a Punisher or with an Executioner, and you're just going to start running off those level 1s, going on to level 2s. Maybe you want to move on to the Omen or to the Mauler, which you can also turn into low-sec belt-ratting ships rather easily if you take care of the feats, or you could even go for the Arbitrator and use the exact same ship for level 3 mission running, for level 2 mission running, and also do high-sec combat exploration. That's what makes the Arbitrator really nice, because it mainly focuses on drones. You can fit it either with missile launchers or with lasers, which is really nice for missions, although I would recommend very much lasers, because not spending that ammunition is a really cool thing. It's really, really annoying having to either produce your own ammunition or go to the markets often because you run out of your ammunition. And that's what gets us to the level 3, and the main reason why the Ammar Empire takes the cake for me, and that is the Harbinger, the combat battle cruiser for the Ammar Empire. Mainly because, yes, it does use lasers, it doesn't use drones as much. You could also use the Prophecy, which focuses a lot more on drones. However, I like the Harbinger because it's a different playstyle. I usually play Galente, so I like having that change and still not having to pay for extra ammunition. You only buy one round of lasers, and that's pretty much it. You're set for life, and they are not really that expensive to fit, and they are really, really good to run those level 3 missions without any issue. Next up, let's move on to Abyssals. Now, Abyssals is a very funny thing because I actually have a tie in between Galente Federation and the Caldari Federation. Why? Well, I think the Caldari are better for starting running these Abyssals, because in the Galente you actually have to wait quite a lot of training time so that you can run a full flight of drones in the Tristan, and then there's not much scalability because, well, you can only run T0s in the Catalyst, and in the Algos I wouldn't try anything more than a T0. You could, of course, fit a really expensive one, but I wouldn't really recommend it. However, for the Caldari state, you can actually go from the basic Corax to run T0s to eventually, when your skills are a little bit higher, move on to the Kestrel to make a little bit more money out of those T0s. I have seen feats. I would recommend a site. I will have the link in the description below, where you can actually see some Abyssal feats. It's called the I don't remember the name, but I am sure that I will leave it in the description below. Please do check it out. And it's a really cool resource because often I see T1 Abyssals being run by Caldari Navy hookbills. And as you can see, T1s are not that bad to run in such a, well, cheap ship, because by comparison, for example, I have a character that runs them in Not Mortis Legion, in Garistas Pirates. I have one that runs in a Worm T1s. So being able to run T1s in just your Caldari Navy hookbill is really, really nice, while you gather up a lot of money so that you eventually move on to maybe a Worm to be able to run those sites a little bit faster, or even to the Gila, which is the best, as I have been told countless times and by a lot of YouTube videos, the best Abyssal, high Abyssal running cruiser. So you will be able to run level 3 Abyssals without much problem. There are some great feats. Again, I will leave the link to the page in the description below. And yeah, it's really, really strong. I haven't really tried the Mamba. I think it might be really worth it for running maybe even two level 2s, level 2 Abyssals, but, well, T2 Abyssals, but I don't know. The Gila, I think, is the next obvious step. And the thing about this, as you can see, is that they can come from either Galente or Caldari state beginners. So you start training one to the max. For example, you will want to have Tech 2 missiles and Tech 2 drones. And while you're training your Tech 2 missiles, you are using your Corax, and then you move on when you have your Tech 2 missiles to your Kestrel, maybe even to your Hookville. You don't sell the previous ship just in case this one gets destroyed and you still haven't paid for it. Just keep it. Just keep it for mine's sake. Just do. And then you can actually start training those drones while you're gathering some good ISK so that you can finally afford either a Worm or a Gila, and then you can finally get into Tech 2 drones, small drones, because we are only alpha, but also the Tech 2 missiles and great shield skills. That's why I believe the Caldari is a little bit better than Galente, but Galente is also a very good, strong option. Now, let's take a good look at a very important thing. The Alpha Punisher Abyssal runners for T0 and some very scooped up ones for T1 electricals. These are really, really great, except for the little bit of an issue that they mainly run electrical abyssals and they are not the cheapest filaments to buy. So the good thing about the Caldari is that the Corax can actually run quite a good amount of filaments, of different types of filaments. It can run exotics, darks, and I think another one, Firestorm, I believe. But yeah, this will give you a lot more coverage because you will get some other abyssal filaments just from running filaments. So I would recommend you get yourself in a position where you can run as many different types as you can. Also, in the Galente, in the T0s, you can actually use the Catalyst pretty nicely to run various different types of abyssals, and it will do really, really good and rather quickly, if I do say so myself. So yeah, both of them really good options. The honorary pick is the Amar Empire because of the Punisher, but there is not much more scalability. I was theorizing about making a feed from Sancha's nation ships for T1 Abyssals in the Succubus and T3s in the Phantasm, but I haven't gotten around to it. If I do, please, I will let you know, and do leave it in the description below if you want me to actually try it. But as you can see, these ships are expensive. A little bit like the Guristas ones, well, a little bit less, I believe. But yeah, they are really expensive, so I would need to gather up some ISK in order to try those without losing too many ships. So, next up we go into low-sec Beltrating, and here, finally, another point goes to the Amar Empire. Why? Well, one reason is because it doesn't waste ammunition. That's really, really nice. But the other one is that it can quite happily stay belt rating at 0.2 systems really, really nicely. And that is really good because we get some clone soldier tags. And let's just look at the regional market. Let's see some clone soldier transporter tags. Clone soldier transporter. And they are really, really nice. As you can see, they are being sold for 49 million. Of course, no one is buying them right here. But if you go all the way to Jira or to a major trade hub, you can actually, well, a major trade hub that isn't Amar, wow. You can actually sell them for pretty close to 49 million. I actually sold some of them not too long ago. Let's see, market transactions. Yeah, I cannot see the ones from last year. But I would really, really recommend that you try this. And the good thing is that you're not going to be wasting ammunition. You're mainly going to be losing drones just because the clone soldiers will target your drones, and that's what you want at first, for them to target your drones, because they can really hit hard, and the Omen and the Mauler really do have a very strong fight against them with the clone soldiers. But I really would recommend it. I just put out, I think the last video was exactly about the Mauler, and I have another one on the Omen. Please do check those out in my channel, and I hope you enjoy them, but this is definitely my recommendation. Yes, it is true, in the Galente I can actually nullsec Beltrat with a Thorax, and I have done that on the videos in, again, another video in this series. However, I wouldn't recommend it, because you will actually make less ISK than if you do it with the Amar Empire in 0.2s. I like doing it in nullsec in Galente space, because I have found some systems that are emptier than others, and in Amar space it's really close to the trade hub, so there are a lot more people passing through. But I think the ISK is absolutely worth it. I remember in one of the recordings I actually took down with the Mauler 2 clone soldiers, not at the same time of course, but I was able to make around 80 million ISK just from that one recording, and that really did pay for the Mauler feat, because it costed like 16 million, which was really incredibly cheap. So definitely do recommend it. Now, considerations to take. The Minmatar Republic, which I have been leaving a little bit on the low, it's really enjoyable, and I would consider it the second best in the high-sec combat exploration range. I think the Galente and the Amar are number one. They are tied up for number one. Definitely number two would be Minmatar Republic. Why? Because I was able to actually get some 5 out of 10s and actually run them, even though the escalations were in low sec, and that's why our ISK was so high in the Minmatar Republic, because the loot there is just absolutely amazing. As you saw, around 558 million worth of loot that we gathered, and a big good chunk of that was thanks to the combat exploration that we were able to do, mainly with the Cyclone. It's an amazing ship, I really like it, and you can actually run those combat exploration sites by just moving along from different ships. I would actually recommend you start with a Slasher. Let's see, here you go, a Slasher, because you can actually get 3 guns and you have that extra high slot for your core probe launcher, and then you can actually move on to what I would suggest, a Thrasher. You won't have that missile launcher or rocket launcher, but you will have 7 guns, which is really nice, and still your shields, because you will be fighting Angel Cartel. So then you can move on to your Rupture, and finally for those 5 out of 10 escalations, you can use the Cyclone, which is really nice and is surprisingly fast. I have been caught once in low sec doing an escalation. However, I was warping from the gate to it, and there was a gate camp. So who doesn't lose a Cyclone to a gate camp? It happened, no big deal. It wasn't even that expensive and absolutely paid for itself and the next one. So yeah, definitely would suggest it. Second place for Minmatar. And unfortunately, Caldari State, even though it's really great combat exploration, some would say the best, there's a big problem. Hecates. Hecates in Caldari space are really annoying. They will run combat sites a lot faster than you can, from a lot further than you can, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're alpha. So I wouldn't really recommend Caldari space for combat exploration, because, well, you will use either railguns or missiles. You will just waste ammunition. You will not get the escalations. Someone will probably get into your site before you can complete it, and if you do get an escalation, it'll be a 4 out of 10, so you will have to use a cruiser. You cannot run 4 out of 10s in a destroyer, and in Galente you actually get 3 out of 10s, and with Amar you can also get 3 out of 10s, depending whether if you go for Blood Raiders or Sanchez. I am not exactly sure which one gives you which, but another good page, check it out in Eve University, just search in the search box combat sites and you will actually be able to see how it goes over there. For one of the final things, let's take a look at the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc and the possible other Epic Arcs that you will be able to run with these empires, because I believe that they are really important. Let's go and take a look at the agency. Let's do agents and missions, Epic Arcs. So in the Epic Arcs, you can do the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc. I have used one navy ship for each one of them. That, of course, meaning that With the Amarians, we actually used the Imperial Navy Slicer. Let's see. Yes, Imperial Navy Slicer. I did not confuse it. With Caldari, we used the Caldari Navy Hookbill. With the Galente, we used the Federation Navy Comet, which I think was the best one. And with Minmatar, we used the Republic Fleet Firetail, which were they were all really good. And I like running it in frigates because it's a lot faster and you have a lot of travel time. But let's consider what else we could actually do in our epic arcs, because you can actually have access to some other ones. For example, I have the Grista Smash and Grab. And why is this? Well, because we have the necessary standings for that. Let's take a good look at what our standings are. With certain standings, you won't be able to access some epic arcs, like for example, the Syndication one. The Serpentis one, you won't, because it requires Omega. As you can see, this yellow border here, that means it'll require Omega. So will the Kalari Penumbra and the Minmatar Wildfire. However, the Angel Cartel one will actually allow you to do the epic arc even if you're an alpha, as long as you have the necessary standings. The thing is that you actually need to get those standings. As you can see, effective standing 2.5, so I would have to get those higher up, I think to 3, to be able to run that one. And that's it. So you can run Angel Cartel and Gorista Smash and Grab. So that means that we are mainly going to be using either Amar or Galente. However, I actually prefer the Firetail better than the Imperial Navy Slicer for the epic arcs. I think it's not faster, but I think it's better, a little bit better. Let's take a good look at the ship tree. So, the Republic Fleet Firetail actually uses hail ammunition, and that means that that's exactly the damage type for our man Dagan, the hardest mission in the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc, which means that, well, I do have some numbers for this one. This was actually one of the best ships to run it, even though it didn't do as much damage, and it used mainly Tech 1 weapons. Now, what I would consider to be the absolute best for the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc, mainly for that one and not for the other ones, would be the Federation Navy Comet. Why? Because it was the fastest against Degen, thanks to those drones and those blasters. They do a lot of damage, and since we are already orbiting really close, that means that those blasters are not going to have a problem either tracking or with the range. And the drones, of course, are not going to have a problem either. So we were able to get mainly Tech 1 fits for pretty much all of them, for the Galente, Minmatar, and Amar, except for the Caldari one, which needed Tech 2 rocket launchers to be able to get that damage up. However, the Galente Federation Navy Comet with Tech 1 guns was able to make 205 DPS. Of course, we had Tech 2 drones, but not Tech 2 guns. That's important to mention. Then, the very next one was the Caldari. The Caldari Navy Hookbill was able to make 181 DPS. However, why would I consider it the worst for running the SOE Epic Arc? Well, mainly because those rocket reloads are really annoying. You're gonna reload like 3 or 4 times while killing Degen and his minions, and that is just a problem. That's a little bit of lost time, and I didn't exactly like it. So, what would I consider to be the second place? I think the Minmatar Republic Fleet Firetail. Why? Because it's great. Being able to change your ammunition type is better even than the missiles, because guns shoot a lot faster even if they are artillery, and it was just super fast, super great, and I really enjoyed it. Again, videos for everything in my channel, please do check them out. And then in the second to last place, I would actually place the Imperial Navy Slicer. Second to last because it was a lot faster throughout the traveling than everything else, so that I believe really does make it a really valuable option. However, the Caldari Navy Hookbill was definitely dead last because it wasn't the fastest, warping around from place to place and from mission to mission, and those rocket reloads were really an annoyance. Even though it's the second highest DPS, I think that that rocket reload is really problematic. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my numbers. Yes, so I have a little bit of a placement. So for exploration, just hacking relic and data sites and even event sites, because those can get you a ton of ISK. Those event sites in Halloween, in Christmas, in mainly all of October and all of December will get you rich quick. I would recommend going Caldari. And if you're mainly a seasonal player and you do a little bit, maybe a few hours a week, and you don't like moving around through a lot of ships and you like the suspense of being in wormholes or in low sec or in null sec, I would recommend going Caldari just for that Heron access. I think that's the best scanning and hacking ship, absolutely bar none. The second one I would actually consider to be this one, the Galanti Empire Imikus. The third one I would consider to be the Minmatar Republic Probe. Why? I am not sure why, but I really, really enjoy it. Maybe it's because it doesn't have as many low slots and it has 4 mid slots. Yes, and the last place would absolutely go to the Magnet because it just has too much low slots and not enough mid slots. Only your micro warp drive, relic and data scanner, and that's honestly, to my eyes, not enough to be a good and proper scanner and hacker. So, for combat exploration, again, we move on. Galente, number 1, absolutely, we have already discussed it. Then number 2, I think it would be Minmatar. Oh, I think what I said earlier was a little bit wrong. But yeah, Minmatar absolutely number 2 because that scalability of running those escalations is just really great and they pay so well. They pay a good loot from 5 out of 10 from Minmatar Republic, which might not give you that much trouble, is going to be better than a 3 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 in Galente space, and you will have a little bit more competition, especially with the 4 of 10s, because you have to scan those down, and I have been competed in those systems. Next up, of course, we move on to the Amar Empire. You know that brilliance of the Arbitrator. I just love this ship with all of my heart. It's incredible, it's amazing, it's beautiful, and that drone missile combination is really, really nice. And finally, the Caldari State, just because there's so much competition. Yeah, the sites are really, really good, and the loot can be really, really good. But getting them is an annoyance. You will spend so many hours just warping around from one side of Caldari space to the other, trying to get yourself something just to get it snatched out by Hecate. Remember it. You will find it annoying. So yeah, I wouldn't really do Calari Empire or even in their space, even with a Galente ship or with a Minmatar ship, I wouldn't really go for Calari space for combat exploration just because it's so saturated. It's really annoying. Now, let's move on to missions. Again, we have the Amar as number 1, the Galente as number 2 because of those drones capabilities, Minmatar as number 3, and Caldari as number 4. Mainly Minmatar as number 3, just because we can change that ammunition type even in the guns, and Caldari, they are good. Level 3 missions in Caldari space with Caldari ships are really good, especially with the Drake. I really enjoyed the ship. I loved flying it. The missiles are just crazy and it's really, really great. But the ammunition is a drag. It's, let's just say it, making more and more and more missiles. It's annoying and you don't have that much drone advantage. So that's why I put them like this. You will spend a lot of ammunition and a lot of ISCON ammunition, and your drones won't make that big of an impact. And since they don't waste ammunition, well, it doesn't really make that much sense for me in level 3 alpha mission run. Now, for Abyssals, I would actually go with Caldari number 1, number 2 Galente, number 3 Amar, and number 4 Minmatar. Why Galente number 2 instead of Amar, even though Amar I think is better because of the Punisher? Well, because the Galente will get you into the Guristas ships faster. That's the main reason. That's what you want eventually if you're only running Abyssals, to move on to your Guristas ships. And then for Losec Beltra, I think we go back to Amar because, well, it was just great. That Muller video just made me so much ISK. I was so happy with it. So yeah, absolutely unbeatable. And the Omen is also really, really good. I would say a lot better than the Muller. However, it didn't make me as much ISK because I didn't get as many close soldiers. But they are both really, really great. Again, the videos are on my video series for each empire respectively. Please go check them out. And I think that's it. I wanted to make the announcement. A commenter asked me to make a Patreon. I have finally made one. If you're interested, the link will be in this video in the description, and it'll be in my homepage for my YouTube. Also, other comments that are important. I'm going to start up a new series, and I think it's going to be an alpha to omega series. It's, just your usual what does it take to get from alpha to omega. Of course, it'll have some very strong restraints because I have started a new job that doesn't leave me a lot of time to record and to play. But we're going to be taking a look into that, and it'll be for specific activities. So it'll be only one activity until we get, not to omega, but until we get to 1 billion, which is the usual mark, or was the usual mark for omega. Now it's 2 point something billion, but I think 1 million is a good enough line, and I think we're either going to start up with scanning, because we haven't done a lot of that in this channel, or with mining. I'm gonna think about it, because mining and recording the mining is a little bit boring, but I think I can compensate it with a little bit of project discovery and make some extra ISK there. The good benefit about mining is that you can do something else while you're mining, like project discovery. So yeah, please do let me know what you think about that. I have heard that my microphone has been getting a lot better, so thank you also very much for those kind comments. I hope you have been enjoying the video series so far. I will work trying to get you 2 videos a week. However, I must announce that it's probably not going to happen, just because I'm going to have this alpha to omega series take 1 video a week, just because I don't want it to get boring, mainly because it's going to be focused on just one activity at a time. And also, again, please do check out my channel. If there's something you like, enjoy, leave me a comment below. If there's a particular video you would like to see, please also do let me know. I would love to make it for you guys, as long as it's within my budget, of course. Look at that pretty Stradios that I'm going to bring out. But yeah, please do let me know what you have been thinking about my videos, what you have been thinking about my editing, my microphone. I've been thinking about buying one, to be honest, because I've been recording with the microphone from my laptop. But yeah, absolutely do let me know. Thank you also very much for watching. Do take a good look at all the links in the description below. I think they are really useful, and you still get the 1 million ISK link. I forgot what it was called. I'm a little distracted today, sorry. But yeah, you get 1 million free ISK, and I am not exactly sure what I get, but please do consider it. It would help me out. I don't know how, but everyone says it does, so it must. Now, thank you also very much for watching. This has been the Alpha Life, and I will see you all in the next one.